Hey, this is the 4th episode of Designing What's Next, the series where we ask 5 questions in 5 minutes on work in the post-COVID world. Today, we're talking to Patricia Kammer, principal researcher for Steelcase. Patricia talked about how to make the most of meeting experiences when we can't all be in the same room. You'll notice that Patricia joined me from her very first day back at the Steelcase campus in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
You know, I think the one thing for me personally about being here, while it is a little bit awkward, I have to say that I have enjoyed immensely the opportunity to see people that I have not seen in months. And while I have seen a number of individuals on video conference, it really is a pleasure to see them in person and to really sort of spend time with them, hold space with them in this environment and say, how are you doing? And how has this experience been for you? Welcome back. It's good to see you again. It feels like I've come back home again. And that feels really good to me. And as much as I love my home environment, I absolutely am grateful to have the opportunity to come back and to actually share that time with my colleagues again. The biggest learning that we're taking from this mass experimentation is that it works for some people, but it doesn't work for others. And that's a no doubt. But for those that it does work really well, they tend to be individual contributors. They're using platforms. They're comfortable with collaborating on these virtual platforms, and they have shared mind through the virtual tools. On the other hand, for those individuals who need to have access to things such as model shops, test labs, or shared resources or technology, it's a bit of a challenge. And further, I would add that it's very difficult for folks like myself, researchers, who tend to like to think their work very visible. It tends to be very analog, and we immerse ourselves in that content. We look for large patterns, and we tend to step back. And so for me personally, as I've been collaborating with my fellow researchers, what I oftentimes will notice is not a nursery behind, but actually a full-blown wall of analog content in their background. So that is a challenge, to be on the shared space and shared time that we typically would get if we were living in a project room together. I think that this blurring between work and life is such that we are inviting people into our spaces that never happened before, unless it was a close personal friend and they came over for, a party, for example. But I think traditionally speaking, it's like you have your work life and you have your home life, and there's not a lot of invitation into that. And so personally, I've showed up with a lot of no makeup, hair and just crazy hair. So there does seem like this flattening of sort of the formality of how we are connecting with people and the lowering our barriers of what it means to show up and be authentic. And that's actually kind of delightful. And I actually think it does actually improve your relationship with people to see them as they truly are, because we all are humans at our best, just doing the best we can. We're exhausted because of the monopoint nature of the technology. I'm not looking beyond you, I'm looking right at you. And I'm also listening intently. So there tends to be you hold yourself in a more formal posture. You're looking maybe at your own reflection. People tend to get a little bit more uptight when they do that. And so holding your posture and looking at people is incredibly exhausting. But listening and moving work along is even more so. You're holding a high cognitive load. And so it's not surprising that people are experiencing video fatigue at the end of the day. And so I think the other thing that people tend to not recognize when they're on a video call is I'm not looking off or glancing off and having a moment of respite. So I think the biggest challenge when people head back to the office is that there is going to be presence disparity again. There will be the haves and the have-nots. Right now, essentially everybody is having the same kind of an experience. We're all dialing in from home, we're all leveraging the same platforms, and we all are having the same kind of an experience. When, however, we activate the office and more people start to go back into the office and have different kinds of technological affordances to those that are at home, there will be a disparity in that experience. I suspect, from a design perspective, the way that we're going to solve for these problems are going to be things like AR and VR, thinking about in-world. How do you come together in-world so that you're all having a comprehensive and a shared experience at the same time? Now that we're bringing people back to the environment, to your point, there's a whole new level of scrutiny around how to manage infection control, how to make sure that people are safe and have psychological safety. And that's going to put pressure on existing facilities and the ways in which our spaces have been designed that don't stretch or can't expand or contract, that are physical barriers to the architectural elements that you can't move that door. And so if the door says you can only have 3 people in that space, the question mark for me is, where are the other 7 people that need to meet for that 10-person meeting? And that's going to be a very unique challenge to try to blend the physical and the virtual in a seamless manner so that everybody has a compelling experience. It's a great design challenge, actually.